Hi there. You're listening to The Everglade Chronicles, a reading. I'm Garrett Shave, the author. Welcome back to the podcast. It's hard to believe we are starting the final novel, Diaries of a Departed Queen. You will notice in particular that my writing style has evolved since the first two novels, and this one is by far the most mature. It's important to keep in mind that the viewpoint is after the fact and told by a very smart teenager. Today I will be reading the back cover and the prologue to kick off our podcast's premiere. The train to Dranmore is leaving the station. Do you have your copy yet? Find my newest novel, The Train to Dranmore, on Amazon. A young girl from the forest rises to fight evil and is instead consumed by it. The Rosewood Boys have been ruling Everglade for what seems like eons. Turmoil tumbles into more turmoil. Not all is what it seems at King's Summit, as a new sovereign is crowned. The children bow to a new ruler, but Caitlin Hardy does not. Diaries of a Departed Queen tells the origin story of Caitlin Hardy, better known as the infamous Queen Venus. A harrowing tale that takes us back in time, back to the age of Gabrielle Sinclair and the reign of King Thomas. Determined to see Everglade rid of the Rosewood Boys and their poison, the future queen gives us a backstory that you just can't miss. Diaries of a Departed Queen, Preface. I found her in the library, sitting alone. She had not caught my eye just yet, so I was given a few precious seconds to admire her. She was not the Caitlin I knew. She had mellowed out, grown taller. She was pretty now, with long flowing dyed blonde hair. She was cross-legged, reading over her papers as articulately as a mother looks upon an honored child. She looked impressed with her work. Her figure was dainty. It was what I expected of her. Her nails were long and painted jet black. She wore clothing that matched your idea of a typical high school girl. I adjusted my glasses and walked forward. It had been ages since we were in the same room together, despite us going to the same school. She had always made every effort to avoid me and avoid anyone else associated with the Everglade Meadow. Nonetheless, I came here searching for answers. While my little cousin Theo played the Kingdom game now, I became more and more curious as to how Caitlin Hardy had become Queen Venus. My general curiosity began ages ago, during my time in the meadow. I often looked upon the figure that was Venus and was impossibly wondered how someone like that could exist. She reminded me of the Queen of Hearts meshed with Vlad the Impaler. She had such an arrogant exterior matched with pomp and circumstance, mutated with a dangerous streak of malice. Now, in this present state of mind, I figured it was a good time to ask. We had outgrown the meadow, and we were now at the top of our game in high school. She and I were evenly matched academics. There would be certainly nothing holding her back to reveal her true self to me. That was my hope, at least. Her lips pursed sharply when she noticed me, glimmering with vibrant red rouge. Her once dull brown eyes were now animated and lively, accented by eyeliner and mascara. Yet, they held immense spite for me. I attempted to smile, but she made no effort to speak or even acknowledge my presence. She was reading about star constellations, I noticed. Throughout high school, Caitlin had evolved into quite the intelligentsia. She was the star of the chess club, head of the astrology club, and the smartest girl in grade 12. She was likely the smartest girl in our district, let alone my grade. She had also been a queen, and an evil one at that. "What do you want?" she finally asked of me. "I'm trying to study for finals." "Caitlin," I breathed. "All right, time to take a leap of faith. I'm sorry to bother you, and you probably don't want to talk or even see me, but I wanted to know." "Wanted to know what?" She gave me a quizzical look. It was now or never. "Venus," I blurted out. The words sort of fell from my lips like marbles. She knew immediately. She looked away, her tongue gliding across her top lip angrily. She inhaled sharply and brushed her long hair back with an aggressive thrust. "What of it?" she spat. "That was years ago. I barely remember those days." "I just wanted to know how you became her," I said easily, clutching my textbooks. What really happened with Thomas? How you became the queen? She thought for a moment before answering. I could tell she wasn't prepared to reply. Her eyes moved over me quickly. Well, that's something I wasn't expecting, she remarked coolly. I was thinking you'd come here to bully me or call me out on something. I did not think you would ask about the past. I've been having some weird dreams lately, mostly pertaining to your time in the meadow, I admitted. My cousin is there now. He still plays the game. I should care why? She snarled. Why should I care about your stupid dreams? You were the one who overthrew me, remember? Why should I tell you anything? You do not have to, I mumbled, feeling her hate like a warmth against my cool skin. I was just curious. She sighed and slammed her book closed. I had it good before you came along, before you and your little army overthrew me. She huffed, staring daggers at me. I had everyone under control. I was happy. I'm sorry, I said, but the others were not happy. They did not like you. I was a chosen vessel for their happiness, and I was given the opportunity to reign and rule justly. There were a lot of bad things that you did, and not everyone was as jubilant about it as you. Yeah, I know, she sighed, quite surprisingly. But being a queen is difficult. You know that. I found it much easier when everyone liked the job I was doing, I felt myself say. She stared at me again, angrily. You are not helping this situation, Jessica. Do you really expect me to reveal my story to you? Why should I? It seems I was defeated. I had come at it from all the wrong angles, and I was losing. Would I ever learn the secret? Would I ever learn her story? I'm sorry, was all I could say. Caitlin just looked at me and then reopened her book. I moved across the library and settled down. Caitlin did not meet my gaze again. That evening I spoke with my sister. I had been telling her about my dreams I had been having before her time in Everglade. In the dream, I said to Abby, Ben and I were at the island in the meadow, and I was not the queen. Caitlin was still Queen Venus, and it was like nothing had changed. It was like in the beginning, when I first arrived, and everyone was so happy that Thomas was gone. Was anyone really happy he was gone? She asked. I shook my head. Just those who had supported Venus. They were the happy ones. The rest of us were miserable. I had come at a pivotal time. Venus won the crown very soon after. So, you had actually met Thomas? Abby asked. In passing, I replied honestly. He never spoke to me. I was below him. He spoke with Daniel, though. You, the reader, might recall that Daniel was William's cousin. He was Duke of Sunset before William, and is therefore the cousin of Hudson, too. Continue your dream, my sister gestured. She was seated at her desk working on her own school project. I was lounging on her bed, gazing at all the boy band posters and the pictures of her friends on outings in pretty frames. One of her walls was a light shade of pink, while the other three were eggshell white. It was a cute room, and I wished that I had had the great idea to paint my walls when I entered junior high. That's just it. All I can remember is Venus ruling with an iron fist. She ruled for 3 years. 2 before you came along. I paused. I tried to talk to her today. You tried to what? She whipped her head around to face me, her blue eyes gigantic with shock. Yes, I replied. I wanted some answers. She didn't indulge, clearly. Do you think she will? No, I sighed. I wonder if I could find Thomas instead. Abby laughed. Do you even know who he really is? You claim to have met him only once, and only really seen him around. Did he go to the same school as you? I inhaled deeply. I had never once noticed Thomas at my school. For all I know, he was in a distant college studying nuclear science. Maybe Caitlin will come around. Not sure why, but I feel like she will. I groaned. I do not think so, Abby, but thanks for thinking anyway. Give her a chance, she said, turning back to her work. She may have changed since then. Haven't we all? The following afternoon I found myself waiting in line in the cafeteria. Our school was not large, but they had enough space for a small cafeteria. Large, dusty, artificial palm trees decorated the exit doors. It almost felt like you were walking into a jungle when you entered the large open room. Above the tables were skylights, allowing a heap of natural light to enter. The walls were asylum white, but one wall was painted with a cliché school mural. It also didn't help that the walls in here were cement, giving you the feeling of being more of an inmate than a student. There was a small coffee shop there as well. The drinks were always stale and tasteless. The students who chose to eat in here could not escape the burnt coffee smell that lingered always. Today's meal was meatloaf and some sort of salad with a warm bun. I opted for the latter, and when I turned around, Caitlin was standing there. I was surprised to find her here, clutching her books. Today she wore a pink and white plaid blouse with dark denim. She looked contrasted with my maroon graphic tee and black jeans. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes were largely animated. "Caitlin," I said, taking a seat. My voice was filled with nothing but genuine surprise. She chose to sit opposite of me. She initially did not speak, instead choosing to inspect my salad. I set my books aside and stared back at her. "I'm sorry about yesterday," she said quietly, a flicker of sorrow touching her voice. "You do not need to apologize," I shrugged, picking up my fork. "You were not in the wrong. I should not have been so upfront and rude about your time in the meadow." I gave your question some thought, and I spoke with Skylar. I think I would like to tell you the story, actually. It might be a refresher to relive some enjoyable moments. She inhaled sharply, and her eyes met mine. "I'm always overloaded with school, chess, and leading the astrology club. Besides, you did not know Thomas, did you?" I shook my head. "I only met him in passing. Plus, I don't know much about you." She smiled softly, noticing at once my emphasis on the word you. "No one knew who I really was back then. Even now, you only know me in this moment." I nodded methodically. What a profound thing to say. "Why don't you tell me about your time in the meadow? Mostly about the time when you came to the throne." "Sure," she said. "I can do that. If that is really what you want to hear, of course." "Yes," I answered, with a faint smile. "I'm so entirely curious about everyone's journey in the meadow. As I mentioned before, my cousin plays the game. He is leading a life through the kingdom game, and he loves it." She touched her chin fondly. "Yes, I loved my time there as well, for the most part, until I was forced to leave." "Sorry about that." "It's cool," she chuckled. "My time had come anyway, as it does for everyone." "Shall we sit in the library this afternoon and talk? I only have art in the afternoons." "I'm afraid I don't have much time in the day," she remarked. "My afternoon is crammed with math and sciences, and later today I have astrology club." "How about we go to the meadow?" That seemed to sting her. She stared at my empty salad dish with vacant eyes. "I have not been there since I was ousted, really," she mumbled. "Just to walk the dog, but even then." "Then let us just meet here in the library this weekend. Can you do that?" Caitlin nodded, happiness having returned to her face. "I'm free on Saturday." The library at school was not the most popular place to be at any given time. It was even less popular on weekends. However, you could find the odd soul trudging around. It was the only library in the town where we lived, aside from a small collection of books in a shop located in our town's commercial core. It was not even worth going there when you knew the school library had much more selection. When I arrived, there was only one librarian on shift and no students around that I could see. The aroma of paper and ink clung to the air. The math teacher, Mr. Jenkins, was reading about football in one aisle. I spied a few older kids down the adult fiction aisles, seated neatly on the floor and engrossed in thick volumes of something. I settled myself at one of the central tables and waited. It was circular and could handle maybe 5 teens sitting around it. It reminded me vaguely in that moment of King Arthur at his round table. I smirked. I let my eyes wander around the room. There were various posters encouraging reading on the walls. Tall bookshelves lined the perimeter of the room like towering sentinels. I did not have long to wait, for Caitlin arrived quickly. She had come in a purple blouse with a white cardigan over it. Her pants were light blue denim. "Sorry if I'm late," she said, plopping her black purse on the table with a thud. "My boyfriend dropped me off, and he was late to begin with." No worries, I replied. I did not want to ask if she was dating Skylar Thompson. Shall we begin? I said after a moment of silence. She nodded gingerly. Where shall I start? Well, how about we start when you first wanted to change things, I said calmly. Okay, Caitlin replied, inhaling deeply. Let's go. That concludes the back cover and the prologue. We are just about to dive into the story now. Diaries of a Departed Queen is split into 3 parts, each containing several chapters. Next week I will start part 1, Audentes Fortuna Iuvat. I probably misread that, but my Latin is a bit rusty, so please forgive me. And of course, Chapter 1, A Forest Soul. Take care and see you next time. Music for the podcast is Space Journey by Heartsman. You can find all the Chronicles of Everglade novels exclusively on Amazon, and check out my latest novel, The Train to Dranmore, which is also on Amazon. Find us on Instagram and Facebook as well, at The Everglade Chronicles. Thanks for reading, and thank you for your support. See you next time!